This is the meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. This is our regular December meeting. It has been properly noticed. We will begin our meeting with an invocation by Pastor Randy Fredrickson from First Baptist Church. And Randy, I would invite you to come forward. Supervisors, please stand.
Good morning. Good morning. Let us pray. Lord God, creator of all things, thanks for all your gifts in this season of thanksgiving and of expectation. We thank you for the care that you have for your people, for family, friends, and times of fellowship, for the bounty of the land and the hard work of those who feed our nation and the world, and for our freedoms. May we be resolute in seeking the freedom of others in places we hardly know, like Syria and Burma. And thanks for the hard work of the elected members of this board and the staff members who support them. Bless their deliberation as they remind us again that there is good in the work of government at all levels. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see that we do have a couple of empty seats this morning. I suppose technically those that have not indicated their absence are not excused, but I don't know what the penalty for that is other than they don't get coffee and rolls. We have no procedure for a penalty. But I would indicate that Supervisor Sather, who is not here, did indicate that he had a conflict and would be unable to be here. And we do have a vacancy for District 8. I think as most of you are aware, Supervisor Stauffer has moved out of the district and therefore is not eligible to represent District 8. Since we are so close to the spring election and nominating papers are already being circulated for the new districts, it is my intention not to go through the process of appointing someone for to that vacancy for just a couple of months. It'll automatically be filled in the spring election, plus it will be a new district. So that would be our intention. Supervisors, indicate your attendance, please. We do have 15 present, and we do have a quorum. And at this time, I will ask our County Administrator, Pat Thompson, for his report.
Good morning. Good morning, Board. Good morning. Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman. Just with a couple items to report on this morning. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Don Gillen, Assistant Corporation Counsel, along with Heather Wolski in the back, Assistant Corporation Counsel, who will assist us at this morning's board meeting. And I'm in the process of reviewing the vacancy in the Office of Corporation Counsel as I review all vacancies when they occur, and I will analyze the staffing needs in the office, determine meet with the current staff and determine or formulate a recommendation that I'll be bringing back to the board in the future as we determine how best to fill the vacancy in the Corporation Counsel's office. But I'd like to thank Don and Heather for their assistance in the transition. On this morning's board agenda, just call your attention to two items. One is a resolution which will redefine the county's fund balance. This is in response to the Governmental Accounting Standard Board requirement that local units of government redefine, recategorize their fund balances. And basically what it does is it takes our existing 3 separate categories of fund balance and redefines them into 5 different account types. The 5 that are, the new 5 accounts are non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And they're in a hierarchy of restrictiveness in terms of the ability of the local unit of government to access those fund balances. It's a ministerial resolution. It's something we have to comply with. The resolution also updates the county's fund balance policy along with the contingency fund policy as well. So I'd ask you to read through that. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Michelle in the finance department is here as well to answer any questions you might have. There's also another item on the agenda to call your attention to, and that's the appointment of Pete Kling to the position of interim director of the planning and zoning department. As you recall, we have a vacancy in that office. I'm recommending the appointment of Pete to the position on an interim basis, 6-month appointment. Pete has been granted a leave of absence from his position in the extension office by the state director. So Pete will fill in as interim director for a period of approximately 6 months. We will review that along with the CDC committee, and then I'll be bringing a recommendation back to the board probably in mid-summer, around the first part of July, as do a permanent appointment for that position. Last week I attended 2 public hearings on the recycling ordinance amendment and the farmland preservation ordinance. And based on the discussion at the public hearing, I've asked staff to prepare a written summary of the comments that were made at last week's hearing. The committee is scheduled to meet on December 15th. We will review all the comments that came forward from the public hearing. I've asked staff to summarize those and compare those to the existing ordinances we have on the books for farmland preservation and recycling, compare that to the amendments that are being proposed along with what's required by Wisconsin state statute. The committee will review this information on December 15th and then bring forward a recommendation to the county board as to what next steps they recommend as a committee, because ultimately it's a committee decision how to move forward with both of those pieces of legislation. The 2011 year is quickly coming to a close. At this time of year, we, throughout the course of the year, we continue to monitor expenses and revenues at the county level, but this time of year we take an extra focus on how the budget is looking towards the end of the year. I'm pleased to report that the county's finances are in good shape, and we will end the year on a positive financial note. We are under in expenditures, and we are also under in our collection of revenues as well, but the two offset each other. When the 2011 budget was adopted, there was a fund balance applied of $1.7 million. When this year's budget was adopted a year ago by the board, you had recommended the application of approximately $1.7 million of fund balance to help balance the 2011 budget. We're not going to need to use all of that fund balance that the board had directed. We're in the neighborhood of about $500,000, slightly under $500,000 of fund balance that will not have to be applied to balance the books at the end of the year. So that is very positive financial news for the county. With that, I'll say that the 2012 budget that we approved last month is a very tight budget. We have reduced expenditures considerably, and so 2012 will be a year where we really have to keep a sharp eye on the finances of the county, because things are very tight, and with the state of Wisconsin's budget situation, which is very fluid, that could change mid-year. The economy is, still sputtering, and so I'm not sure, exactly what impact both the state budget and the national economy will have on our 2012 budget, but it's something we need to keep an eye on. But 2011 is strong. We will end the year strong financially, which is good news. Lastly, on the 19th of December, the Committee on Administration is meeting in the morning. At 11 o'clock, the staff has put together a Christmas holiday potluck. We invite all county board supervisors to attend if you can, schedule permitting. Of course, the committee hopefully will be able to stay on after their meeting. It will be in the county boardroom. The staff will provide food and beverages, and we ask for those of you that can attend to please do. It should be fun, and rumor has it that there might be some crazy sweaters being worn at the potluck. So if you have an old holiday sweater that is sitting with mothballs somewhere, take it out of the box and put it on and wear it to the potluck. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a sweater?
Is that a requirement to wear an old mothy sweater?
I've heard that you have a nice Christmas sweater, so it's not a requirement, but it's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Supervisors, the agenda has been distributed for your prior review, and it is my intention to follow the agenda order that we have this morning, beginning with the department and committee reports prior to getting into the 3 agenda items. Those will not be presentations, but you will have the opportunity to direct any questions to any of the departments as they come up if you so wish. The consent agenda is in front of you. It contains minutes and the date of next meeting. There are no rezonings. Chair would entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Motion by Supervisor Schrank, second from Supervisor Brian Hurchin. Proceed to vote. Brian, do you have your second in? And the consent agenda is adopted. We do have 2 appointments this morning. The first appointment is a reappointment. Actually, it is an appointment to the IFLS board, to the Indian Head Federated Library System Board. Steve Anderson has been serving in that position. Steve is agreeable to continue in that position. This appointment does require confirmation of the county board. So if you are inclined to reappoint Steve Anderson to the IFLS board, Chair would entertain a motion. Motion, Supervisor Schrank. Second, Supervisor Rebholz. Roger, your second in. And proceed to vote. And Steve is confirmed for another term on the Indian Head Library System Board of Trustees. Our second appointment is an administrator appointment, as indicated in his report when Administrator Thompson highlighted this. Pete Kling is being appointed to an interim position as department head in planning and zoning. And I think most of you obviously know Pete. He has served us in the extension area. I think this is an opportunity for the county to take advantage of some additional skills from Mr. Kling. So at this point, if you're so inclined, Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Norton Baumann, second from Supervisor Marzoff. Proceed to vote. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Board Chair. Just a question on payment. Pete, while a very valuable employee, and I don't think there's going to be any concern at all of having him come into this appointment. Where I'm interested is in the when Pete was acting as the UW extension, we were paying, state paid for his salary at 60%, and I believe the county was funding the 40%. I hope that's correct. Since this is an interim position, I suppose we couldn't talk the state into continuing with that, that arrangement?
We've already tried and they said no.
I will take that as a rhetorical question, Supervisor.
All right, that was my only concern.
Proceed to vote. And Mr. Kling is confirmed. Pete, are you still in the room? Pete's in the back of the room. I told you it might be a tough struggle, but looks like we got it done. Any comment that you might want to make, Pete, at this point? Oh, we look forward to your service. I think a round of applause would be in order for Pete. At this point, it gives me great pleasure to direct your attention to a presentation that we're going to have, and to set this in context and to introduce our presenter. I will call forward Alicia Miller, and she will indicate what we are about to hear and why. And Alicia,
thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Miller, and I work for the Land and Water Conservation Department. And every year we have a conservation speech contest, which allows local kids to come in and give a speech on soil and water conservation topics. And this year we had 11 participants, and our winner of this year's contest, Luke Beckmeyer, is going to come up and give his speech. Come on up, Luke. He's from Rivercrest Elementary. He's in 5th grade. And not only did he take first place at our contest, but we also have an area contest competing against 10 other counties, and Luke came in second at that as well. So, thank you, Luke.
Imagine this. A beautiful hill covered with thousands of lush green trees and shrubs. Now a logging company cuts down the trees and polluted water kills the grass and shrubs. Now most people would feel sorry for the trees, but not many people would think that the soil will erode more quickly. I'm going to tell you what soil erosion is, why it's a serious problem, and what we need to do about it. Now you might not think that soil erosion is a very big deal, but actually is one of our most important environmental problems. Some soil erosion is natural. It is when wind or water take away part of the topsoil, otherwise known as the humus. The humus is the most productive layer of the crops. If you erode the humus, you won't have very healthy crops because there aren't as many nutrients in the soil underneath the humus. In other words, if you don't have the humus, you don't have the crops. Other soil erosion is caused by man. For example, at Willow River State Park, a naturalist told me that people walking down a hill right next to a waterfall will increase the erosion rates of that hill. I saw the same thing happen at Gooseberry Falls just a couple of weeks ago. Another example is my elementary school. When Rivercrest was built 4 years ago, it created a ravine at Camp St. Croix, an environmental camp across the street. It is now one of their main erosion sources. A final and important example of man-made erosion is agriculture. Many farmers have to choose between soil conservation and heavier application of herbicides and pesticides. If too much soil has eroded, then all the herbicides and pesticides that were put on the soil will harm the lake or stream it flows into. As you can imagine, this hurts the animals that drink out of the water and the creatures that live in it. This is not just the farmer's responsibility. We are all responsible. I bet you can tell now that soil erosion is a serious problem. But what can we do about it? Buzzle.com can give us some ideas. We can plant trees. This is the easiest and most effective way to fight against soil erosion. The roots keep the soil together, and the leaves from the trees protect the soil from the rain. You can also use mulch or matting to protect against rain or wind, or a more natural solution is to plant cover crops. These plants keep the nitrogen in the soil. I know this sounds silly, but you can water the soil, just like you water your plants. The soil with the highest infiltration rates, such as potting soil, resists the erosion more than the soil that is dry, cracked, and hard. This soil has developed a crust from not having enough water. According to ehow.com, a good way to stop wind erosion is to put up a windbreak. Windbreaks can be fences, a tree line, or just a building that protects the crops from the wind. Finally, farmers can make the tough choice to use soil conservation methods, such as no-till farming and terrace farming. No-till farming is a tillage method that breaks up only 2 inches of the soil, compared to the 8-inch of a regular tillage plow. And terrace farming is an ancient method used by the Incas at Machu Picchu and the Chinese in their rice fields. This is where you cut into the hill to make several layered steps. This way, the water does not rush down the hill, taking soil with it. So as you can see, soil erosion affects everyone. If you enjoy a nice hike in the forest, if you enjoy gardening in nature, if you enjoy, well, food, soil erosion affects you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I also wanted to thank Luke's mom and grandparents that came out today, and his teacher, Mrs. May, from Rivercrest also came out. So thank you for letting us come in and talk to you and show us one of our things that we do over in our department.
Mr. Chairman. Bob, I think we just found your replacement when you decide to retire. Luke, do you have a resume? Can you leave that in the office before you leave?
Well, Pat, I was just observing that it was a good thing that we got Pete confirmed before he spoke, because he's certainly a reasonable alternative. Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to come here, and congratulations on your success in the contest, and to the parents and the grandparents and the teacher, you all can be justifiably proud. Thank you very much. There are a number of annual reports that are included in the packet of information that you received. These have all been well done, in my view. We will look at them in order. I'm going to direct your attention to them. If any supervisor has any question or anything that needs a response or an embellishment, we'll call a representative from that area forward to respond to that. But if not, we will move through them in order. But I do specifically want to call your attention to them, and we will start with the Sheriff's Department. There's an annual report from the Sheriff's Department. It's entitled 2011 Annual Report, obviously. Any questions or observations on the Sheriff's Department Annual Report? And if not, we will accept that as presented and thank the Sheriff's Department very much. Scott is nodding in approval. I assume that that means that you wrote it personally, Scott? Is it?
I approve
The next report I would direct your attention to is from the Child Support area. Obviously, titled 2011 Annual Report, St. Croix County Child Support Department. Any questions or observations or comments on the Child Support Annual Report? And seeing none, we will accept that report as drafted. And thank you very much. The next report is from our medical examiner. Don't see Patty, so if there are any questions or observations, you may have to direct them to someone else anyway. Any questions or observations on the medical examiner's report? And seeing none, we will accept that report as drafted. Two reports come out of the District Attorney's Office. The first one is the District Attorney's report. Any questions or observations on the report by Mr. Johnson? Seeing none, we will accept that report as drafted. We will move to the second report from that area, and this will be from the victim witness area. Any questions or observations on the victim witness annual report? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. Just an overall observation. We see that it appears in the sheriff's report that crime is down. It appears in the district attorney's report that workload is decreasing. I'm curious why victims' witness is going up. If they could expand on that, would be kind of I guess I'd be interested in hearing that.
Is there someone from the victim? You get the DA himself. Welcome.
Thank you. Good question. The specific numbers are slow but steady for domestic abuse. I think those are the primary numbers for victim witness that we're talking about. One of the reasons why our numbers are down is we contract out our bad checks. That's one of the things that other counties don't do. So that means explains a lot of the decrease in our office. That's 400 to 500 cases a year. We've also prioritized a lot of cases. We use a lot for our diversion program. Those cases that would get filed for youthful offenders no longer get filed. They go to our diversion program. So that accounts for partially for the reason for the decrease in our office. One of the things I've seen over the years is that domestic abuse cases continually go up. I mean, sometimes it's dramatic, but there's always numbers that go up. And they do the temporary restraining orders, and those numbers go up. Now, sometimes it's a sharp incline, but I think those numbers indicate more of a steady incline. So I think that's the reason why you're seeing the increase in victim witness, where you're seeing a decrease in the other numbers.
Could I follow-up question?
Yep.
How would you say our county compares to other counties in victim witness program? I've visited a couple other counties, and it doesn't seem to have near the exposure that we have given it. And from a cost standpoint, I'm just kind of curious, are we over-delivering?
You mean exposure? How would you define exposure,
well,
Steve?
Exposure as far as how much emphasis we put into it. Let's put it that way. And I always come back to the standpoint of thinking, are we over-delivering? Are we expanding a program that really doesn't need to be, or are we trying to find a way to justify what we're doing?
Okay. A few ways I can answer that. When I came here in '89, we had 2 victim witness people. We had 5 assistant DAs. We had 2 judges, 3 probation officers, and 3 public defenders for St. Croix County. Okay, shoot ahead to 2011, we have 4 judges. We've doubled our judges. We have 11 probation officers from 3. We have 9 public defenders from 3, and we've gone from 2 to 4 victim witness people. And again, we've doubled our judges. And we've gone from 5 assistant DAs to 6 assistant DAs, okay? So I think that's one respect. I don't think that the increase has been that significant if you look over 21, 22 years. The other big thing is Chapter 950 guaranteed victims' rights. And what that did, there was also a penalty provision in there, and basically it said that victims have certain rights, and that if you violate those rights, if judges, law enforcement, district attorneys violate those rights, you can have public sanctions, private sanctions, a fine up to $1,000, reprimands, including your law license could be in jeopardy. And some of those rights are, they have a right to meet with us before decisions are made, before final decisions are made, or an in-person meeting. They have a right to be notified for all hearings. They have a right to attend all hearings. They have a right to confer with the victim witness at any stage of the process. That was a huge, huge issue. A lot of states that had done that did it just for felonies. Wisconsin did it for misdemeanors and felonies. So when that came into being, that increased their workload a lot. I think we have an excellent victim witness program. Ann Gustafson, Pam's predecessor, was president of the organization for a number of years, was awarded, did an excellent job, and I think Pam has continued that. So I don't think we're emphasizing the program more than we should. I mean, they're busy. They have the responsibilities by statute, and the way it's supposed to be is you're supposed to have 1 victim witness coordinator per court. Well, we actually have 3 for 4 courtrooms. We have a 4th person, but that person does temporary restraining orders. But if you look at state guidelines, it's supposed to be 1 per court. So, so I don't know what's been done in other counties, but I think we do a good job. And I think if you're going to focus government resources on something, it should be on helping victims of crime, especially on domestics, because that's where we see those are the cases that end up as homicides. Does that answer the question? Kind of. Okay. I guess I'd be interested in what do you see in other counties, or is something there that we're not doing and that we should be doing, or that we're doing that other people aren't doing, or?
I'm just looking at it from an overall standpoint. We've seen the population of the county grow from the last 10 years census was, what did we come from? 70 to 80,000, or was it, it was a fair amount. But I mean, so I'm looking at it from a percentage standpoint, we've doubled. We have doubled victims witness, and yet looking at the reports and everything, it seems our domestics are down, our crime is down. You know, you just have to kind of sit back and start asking questions. So.
Yeah, like I said, in '89, the population was 35,000. And I know that because DA's salaries are based on population. So when it was fixed at, if it went over 35,000, I got a raise. So I know in 1989 when I came here it was at 35,000. And now we're at what, 85, something like that, 80? So I mean, the population has increased significantly. And what we've tried to do is rather than just every case that comes in and filing it as a crime, we've tried to look at other options. I think that's what good government is. And we've looked at other options, either it's diversion or contracting, trying to prioritize our serious crimes and give them the most attention. So that's why our numbers fluctuate sometimes. Roger?
In your defense, so one of the things that I don't think we should underestimate is the breakup of families within communities. If we go to the more rural communities or counties, You're not going to see the amount of breakup that you're going to see in the larger metropolitan areas. It's just a fact of life. I'm appalled when I look at some families and you see 3 last names that the mother is taking care of. Well, you know what's happened. Mm-hmm. And that has to have a terrific effect on domestic violence.
Right. Yeah, that certainly has an effect on it. The other effect, since I've filed this report, we've learned in the Attorney General's office 2 weeks ago that as of December 31st, we're losing our drug prosecutor position that we share with Polk County, which is a shame. I mean, that's the person that does our drug court, coordinates all our drug cases, was instrumental in a lot of the meth prosecutions. Well, we're going to lose that position, which is, I can't understand that, but it was a grant position that was set through some federal money and surcharge money, and the surcharge money is down, so they basically gave that money to law enforcement groups. So we'll have to scramble again to fill that void. Any other questions for DA or victim witness? Good, thank you.
And our final annual report is from the Emergency Support Services. Casey is here. In case you have any questions or observations, I would observe, Casey, that some people didn't use their allotted time, so if there are some questions, you can be on the hot seat for everyone. Any questions or comments or observations? St. Croix County Emergency Support Services Department. And you get a free pass. We will accept the report as drafted. That concludes the annual reports. I would say to all the department heads and the staffs that prepared these, we appreciate the information. I would encourage supervisors to retain these reports, to review them carefully if you've not done so already, and to retain them in your information for reference as we go through next year. We'll begin our normal order of business, and the first item of business is a brief annual report from Wisconsin Counties Association. I've had a chance to observe this, and those that were at the WCA conference this year in the Dells have had a chance to see this. It is, as I recall, about 8 minutes, as I remember it. It seems to me to be a good capsule of the activities of our association. I commend it to you and direct your attention to it, and we will have a presentation now, video presentation, which is the 2011 Wisconsin Counties Association Annual Report.
Over the past 12 months, Wisconsin has seen significant change. At a time when leadership was called for, the Wisconsin Counties Association helped create a pathway forward. The legislative team focused much of their effort on the 2011-2013 state budget as well as the budget repair bill. In an environment of contentious debate and unprecedented change, WCA's legislative team worked right here, every day, to ensure that county government's voice was heard. WCA's diligence in working closely with members of the Joint Committee on Finance and the legislature paid off. As cuts to government services occurred, WCA maintained funding in several programs and service areas, while minimizing cuts in others. The County Ambassador Program returned to the Capitol for its second successful year, with 2 solid days spent in Madison meeting with legislators on county issues. Close to 200 county officials from all corners of the state educated legislators on crucial county issues. WCA is steadfast in its commitment to providing educational opportunities to members. Early in the year, the association held its annual 2-day WCA Legislative Exchange in Madison. State leaders, legislators, and WCA staff briefed members on key legislative issues as well as provided attendees networking opportunities. In March, WCA conducted regional legislative meetings. Held in WCA's 7 geographic districts, these meetings included the latest information on the budget repair bill and the state budget. These meetings were universally applauded by the membership as timely, nonpartisan, and factual.
This is probably one of the most significant meetings that we as county board members have any given year. I was totally blown away by the information that Sarah and John and David were able to present. It was unbelievable. We have no other single source to get this information, and this was fantastic.
This is the most timely meeting I think we've ever had. It happened to be right on schedule with what's happening in Madison.
The budget repair bill brought sweeping changes to collective bargaining in Wisconsin. Reacting swiftly to the changing environment, the association and the Wisconsin County Mutual Insurance Corporation spearheaded the Budget Repair Bill Consortium. Led by General Counsel Philip Sporowski, this groundbreaking group of counties is working together to find solutions to adapt to the new environment. WCA's 2010 conference was held in Milwaukee County. Over 1,000 county officials attended and participated in breakout sessions on timely topics and attended general sessions featuring state and national leaders. It is crucial for WCA to utilize cutting-edge technology to better serve our members. WCA launched a new website that continues to keep members informed about events, news, and legislative action. A continued presence on social media sites, Facebook and Twitter, is yet another vehicle WCA uses to provide real-time updates to the membership. The association produces the electronic newsletter WCA E-News, reaching over 4,000 state and county leaders with each issue. Wisconsin Counties magazine turns 73 this year and continues to provide in-depth coverage of county government issues. WCA's corporate management continues to successfully market 3 companies: the Wisconsin County Mutual Insurance Corporation, Community Insurance Corporation, and the WCA Group Health Trust. The insurance and employee benefit trust companies have continued to perform incredibly well in this struggling economy. Finding cost-saving solutions remains the core mission of WCA Services Incorporated. Partnering with the private sector to find innovative programming to assist counties is key to the success of this company. The state of Wisconsin has experienced a climate of change in the last 6 months, creating challenges for county government. But with those challenges come incredible opportunities. WCA will continue to help our counties succeed in this new climate. With a clear vision and a strong membership, WCA is positioned to contribute toward a stronger tomorrow.
We have two agenda items for our consideration this morning. The first one is a resolution adopting provisions of GASB. This GASB 54, Pat earlier indicated the reasons for this. It does put us into some required compliance. I would indicate to you that all municipalities, villages, towns, cities, counties are adopting similar resolutions because it's a requirement that goes across the board. It's been explained to you. Chair will entertain a motion from Supervisor Malik and a second from Supervisor Norton Bauman. And discussion is open, if there is any, on GASB 54. And if not, Supervisor Norton Bauman, if you have your second in place, supervisors proceed to vote on the resolution adopting the provisions of GASB 54. And it is, why doesn't it have the results?
I already pushed.
Oh, that is approved unanimously. Thank you, Cindy. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution designating the County Transportation Committee to hear appeals of the Highway Department decisions remade pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 86.07. Motion from Supervisor Rebholz and second from Supervisor Seacard. Any discussion? Supervisor Malik.
As some of you know, I chair the Board of Adjustments, which deals routinely with zoning matters, and for once in living memory had to deal with an appeal of a decision by the Highway Commissioner having to do with driveway permits. It caused the Board of Adjustment a good deal of heartburn to deal with something that was outside of our experience and also of our expertise, and we ended up deciding that the Highway Commissioner had made the proper decision. So I can say with no doubt of no expectation of pushback from Supervisor Hurchin, who is also on the Board of Adjustment, that we're delighted that this will be taken in the future by the Transportation Committee, which does have expertise in the matter of driveway permits and other kinds of things that the Highway Commissioner deals with.
Any other questions or discussion? Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I'm kind of curious, though, to maybe piggyback on Supervisor Malik's comment. In the event that someone wishes to have a driveway, and what it appears is that it's coming down to a public employee's decision whether a private individual can have access to their land. Under normal circumstances, that would end up coming through a committee's decision. If there was some ordinance needing a variance from. I guess what I'm a little troubled with on this is that, for one, I would think this should be in an ordinance and not a resolution. And that any resolutions, I guess I view as something that we as a committee or as a board use to help rule ourselves and that we play by. But when it's coming to the people and their private property, I think that it's proper that it be done through an ordinance. And then if something doesn't comply with that ordinance, it would then go to a committee of their peers that would make that decision. What this has done is basically said we have we're granting authority of a highway commissioner to deny or approve a driveway. And I would think at that point that it should come before a committee before, if it's no different than in planning and zoning, where we take as a committee, when we hear a waiver, we take into consideration staff's recommendation. So I'm kind of curious why this doesn't follow that same process. that we don't leave it to a public employee. And from that standpoint, if they don't like the decision, then they have to come down through the whole process of trying to get it in front of transportation.
Chair would invite a response from either the Chair of Board of Adjustment or the Transportation Committee Chair.
Well, I think
Supervisor
I've
Malik.
learned something about this. I'll go as far as my present knowledge takes me, and if it's inadequate, then we can turn to somebody else or deal with it otherwise. This, of course, relates to driveways on county highways. Driveways on town roads are dealt with differently. And we're talking entirely about rural property, not property in cities or villages, naturally, to get the context here. The basic underpinnings of how many driveways are allowed is set out in the ordinances of planning and zoning, and it's typically 1 per lot. And whenever lots are being created by subdivision of land, our Community Development Committee oversees that, and they choose the locations for the driveways typically at that time, at the time of platting, as it were, CSMs or major subdivisions, either way, depending on the numbers. So these decisions that are talked about in this resolution have to do not with how many driveways or the ratio of driveways to lots, which is 1 to 1, but the precise location of them. And that normally has to deal with things like locations on curves or locations on hills, in which the highway commissioner has special technical expertise. And to have the appeal from his decisions go to his committee is a way of getting public input, because of course those are, the transportation committee is elected, is made up of county supervisors elected by the citizenry. So it appears to me that it meets the basic test that you were outlining, that there be an opportunity for public input. If there is a desire for public hearing, that would occur back at the stage of a major subdivision, or if rezoning's is involved, there'd be public hearings at that point. Otherwise, it's a committee process.
Is that sufficiently responsive for your question, Supervisor Hermsen?
Well, I'm a little foggy yet on then. Is this basically just focusing in on farm fields access from County Highway?
Probably that'd be the most typical thing. That would be the most frequent situation where a driveway is being created that's not incident to the creation of a lot. Because typically, as we subdivide properties, we're not subdividing them in order to make different farm fields. We're doing it to create housing lots. And those, of course, run through your committee. So yeah, this particular instance that came to the Board of Adjustment, it was some 14 driveways to a single farm lot in the course of a half a mile in length. If my memory serves me right. Rather unusual request.
While you were speaking, Supervisor Malik, I did motion for Highway Commissioner Tim Ramberg to come forward. Maybe he can shed some light on the specificity of the question that you're asking, Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you. 86.07 already has the authority of the maintaining highway authority to make these decisions, and there's statutory obligations already in existence for under 86.07. I think it points in there, no person shall make any excavation or fill or install any culvert or make any other alteration in any highway or in any manner disturb any highway or bridge without a permit therefore from the highway authority maintaining the highway. And therein lies the statutory responsibility to the highway department. And then further into that, the statutes speak to the appeal process for state roads, but they're silent to local units of government roads. This clarifies that process for St. Croix County, as it's never been a question before because we've always addressed it through the Transportation Committee. In the past, this one didn't go that direction, and this just clarifies the process to take for challenges.
Further clarification?
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you. I'll give an example. We had before us on a waiver, for instance, someone was asking for a waiver from a buffer requirement. But in the process, we learned that they had a driveway to their property that was questionable, whether it was within the view or in non-compliance, let's just say. Now, under normal circumstances, had that property been gone through normal process, we would have went to transportation to find out if, you know, the layout of the lot would have been proper. In a point where, I guess that's where I'm getting confused here, is that if it had been denied and it comes back before planning and zoning requesting that, what takes precedence? Does a highway commissioner overrule a planning and zoning committee if we were to turn around and grant that the lot layout that they had proposed? Or does, you know, to me, I can see where people can get into a very much of a muddle, wondering where are we dealing with. I don't, help me here, Sharon. Maybe I'm got you a little confused. Go ahead.
Do you have another question, or is that your question?
No, I guess that's my question. I'm trying to clarify in my mind how the discrepancy that we can have here between planning and zoning, transportation, a highway commissioner that may, all bodies could have different views.
Chair invites a response from Supervisor Norton Baumann.
I think perhaps Supervisor Hermsen is speaking to an issue that came before the Community Development Committee involving a township road and lot. That seems, if I'm correct,
you're right.
That seems to be very different than this resolution, which only covers county highways. Is that right? I mean, I don't know which situation you're talking about.
But it was a town and a county road crossroad. Right. That, but it did infringe on the town portion of the clearance. But it did need to come before, or we were asking for highways position, or so that's where I'm just trying to get this better in my head. Is this really a needed piece, or is it already something in state statute that is laid out that we don't need to put in the form of a resolution? Isn't it? And if it is going to be in this form, was it better to put it in an ordinance instead of a resolution?
Well, Chair opines that it is a needed piece to answer that response, and so I invite Commissioner Ramberg to support the opinion of the Chair in response to Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you. And you're correct. In Chapter 68, it speaks to the process to adopt, to mirror Chapter 68 or challenges. And Don, jump in there if you want to, or anybody else. But the point of clarity also is these are for all accesses. Driveways are one form of access. And that's why if you start trying to define the type of access, in 10 years from now we could have a llama crossing. And so you don't want to be revisiting it for all types of accesses. And we're obligated to take care of the safety of the highway right-of-way. And with the engineering criteria going on and all the changes going on, that is a lot of the elements that are measured. It's site-by-site specific pieces that we entertain in looking at all accesses, and not infringing on the rights and the authority of towns, cities, and villages, but just the county side of things.
Supervisor Rebholz.
Well, I think this situation was a classic example of where if the man had worked with the highway department, there would not have been a problem. But he wants to put 14 houses up, and so he wants 14 driveways on a county road, which you can't get if you have a subdivision. If you have a subdivision in this county or in a township, most all of them are one driveway for a common drive, and that caused the problem, because it ended up in spending a lot of the Board of Adjustment time when it could have been corrected like that.
And we team up with planning and zoning staff on all kinds of issues, and this wouldn't be any different.
Any other comments or questions?
Board
Supervisor
Chair,
Hermsen.
I'm still going to ask the question then, what does this resolution fix that isn't already in place?
Well, what it is,
Supervisor Malik.
what it is that at the moment, our procedures are silent on what board or committee reviews decisions of the highway commissioner. And that's why it went to the Board of Adjustment, because there's some general language in the Board of Adjustments charter, if you will. And so that's why it's needed, is to direct questions of this technical nature to the proper committee that deals with that technical subject. That's my view of it.
Supervisor Norton-Bellman.
Thank you, Board Chair. In reading through this resolution and doing my best to understand it, it seems to me that this resolution clears up a problem which has occurred and may potentially occur in the future as to who decides whether or not the highway commissioner has made a correct decision about access to properties. It occurs to me that this resolution could perhaps keep us out of the Board of Adjustment purview and perhaps keep the county out of the circuit court purview by letting the Transportation Committee review the actions of the highway commissioner and saying, yes, the staff did this correctly, or no, we don't think this is correct, let's go back and start over again. So I personally am in favor of this solution to a problem, which did occur and may again occur.
Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I believe you're ready to vote. This is a resolution designating the County Transportation Committee to hear appeals of the Highway Department decisions made pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 86.07. This is presented on a motion by Supervisor Rebholz, a second by Supervisor Seacard, and proceed to vote. And it is adopted 15-1. Supervisors, this concludes our agenda. I'll ask the county clerk for any reports of correspondence or any rezoning requests, and invite the county clerk to make any comments, if she's so inclined, about nominating papers or the process of circulating nominating papers or declarations of candidacy or non-candidacy.
I have no correspondence or rezonings to report on, and I don't know if anybody has questions regarding the nomination papers. We do have packets in the office for you to pick up. You can also get them online. And filing deadline is January 3rd. Circulating nomination papers began December 1st.
If not, I would take this moment of personal privilege to wish all of you a very blessed and holy Merry Christmas. Safety if you're traveling, or safety for any family that will be joining you. And to our staff as well, thank you for this year, and Merry Christmas to all of you, and we are adjourned.